thanks very much for joining us. Sean Bonner and Kaj Larsen, co-founders of Guild. Mike, I'm sorry, actually a third co-founder, Mike, in the back with us. Co-founders of Guild, which is an investment platform that was focused just on military. These guys saw a gap in the market that E-Trade and all these other platforms out there, really good for the savvy investor, but not as much for the military folks. And military folks coming in and just being handed the TSP and here you go and just figure it out on your own. And these guys saw a gap in the marketplace. So we thought it'd be a treat, especially for Greencastle team, to bring these guys in and talk a little bit about Guild and just the investment world for veterans. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Actually, JC, that's perfect. Like, that's the whole pitch. So
there
just cut. We're
done.
good.
Yeah,
Let's have a drink.
Turn that into a
That's
commercial. This is a Shots from the Winchester podcast, so we have to do a shot in the Winchester to kick it off. What's your drink of choice?
I'm going to go with tequila. If I'm going to be drinking in the middle of the day,
right.
like, let's do it right.
Yeah. This is a podcast. It's filmed at 6 p.m. after work hours. It's definitely not 12:13 in the afternoon on a Monday.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, in Europe, that's right. Jimmy Buffett, right?
Gentlemen.
It's
Thank
5:13
you.
somewhere. Thank you, sir. What are we drinking? See if we can get sponsorship from.
Terramana tequila here.
All right, Terramana.
Made in Mexico.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, fellas.
Got a bullet in it.
Yeah,
Love
yeah.
it. Cheers, John. Good to see you, brother.
Heavy pour, by the way.
Thanks.
Terramana, it's delicious. Bing! As if I need more gray hair.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Now we're getting rolling.
Yeah.
Just tell some sea stories.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah. Why are you guys here again? So tell us a little bit about Guild and sort of the story of why you founded Guild, and then let's get into the story of how veterans can be better investors.
Yeah, let's do that. Well, first I was going to tell a sea story. This reminds me of when I showed. So John and I had the honor of serving together. But when I showed up, like my first week at Team One, they had just gotten Saddam Hussein, right? And I think the TFO guy who pulled him out of the hole was a former team guy, right? And anyways, they had just gotten Saddam Hussein, so I'm like a young junior officer, you know, my first duty station, my first command reporting to SEAL Team 1, and I show up for O-call in the morning, and all the officers are there, and we're sitting in the wardroom, and the CO at the time, Bill Wilson, like comes out with like a bottle of wild turkey. And it's 07:30 in the morning, right? The first thing I did as an officer at my first SEAL team was take a shot of wild turkey because he had been holding that bottle until we got that one wild turkey. So
New guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
And then you went for a run afterwards. And
That's
just
exactly
threw it
what
all
we
up,
did.
yeah.
That's exactly what we did.
We're not stopping running until Kaj throws up.
It's a long run.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice. It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah,
Both veterans, both Navy guys.
Yeah, so we have a kind of a secret at the company. We are expanding and branching out, but the core founding team, all Navy officers, 2 Intel, one SEAL.
Who does if you're all officers, who's doing the work?
Oh, we don't do any work. We just come here and drink.
You have just a team of enlisted guys just doing all the work? Yes.
I have a couple kids that are our interns. Actually, we've actually expanded the Navy family. My son is just finishing a plebe summer at the Naval Academy.
Yeah.
He's a football player there. He just rolled into football camp, so the next generation is taking over.
Army Navy football coming back to Philly for this year, so it's good to see him out there.
I think we'll see.
And we'll be hosting. We'll be tailgating.
So
Everybody's invited.
We'll see a lot of faces down there.
Finn Bonner, the long snapper for Navy. Well, we have we're surrounded by Army, so.
Yeah. Well, look, it's definitely good. It'll be a joint party. For sure.
That's right.
So, and speaking of that, I had a little bit kind of interesting path coming into the military. I had almost gone to the Naval Academy, played football, ended up not working out. Played at one AA school, and then it was kind of, not quite bitter, but sort of bitter about sort of that whole experience. And then I got over that bitterness when I was working in New York on the morning of 9/11. So that changed things for me. And then
You're working in finance, right?
Yeah, so I was one of those guys in the funny color jackets on the floor of the American Stock Exchange, yelling and screaming. My daughter had just been born, so I wasn't actually there that day, but I had a business there. I had my own seat. I had a couple guys working for me. So obviously very impactful. And we were just up in New York for the SEAL swim. The hotel where we stayed was in a new building. They tore down a couple blocks there, but right in back of the old American Stock Exchange. The Amex has since merged with the New York Stock Exchange, but the actual building was there. Like the back entrance used to go in and out of every day. The World Trade Center was my train station. So it was a little bit, eerie, kind of coming back full circle to it. But I applied for a direct commissioning program in the Navy, which was something after a little bit of research, I thought it was kind of a way to get in the fight quicker. not so much. Took a lot longer, and then you go sort of through the reserve side of the house, which can take a lot longer for everything. I always joke like reserves are like dog years, right? 7 years in the reserves is like 1 year of active duty. So I eventually got commissioned as direct commissioned Navy Reserve Intel Officer. First out of Willow Grove, and then did a lot of stuff out of Fort Dix. Right? Worked at the Army Intel Center there, and then first with O&I, and then at DIA. I had actually bumped into a friend after I just got commissioned in D.C. We were actually lifeguards at the shore together, played high school football against each other. I scored my only high school touchdown against him. But that's Mike Canallen. And Mike comes from a Navy family, and his father was a career aviator. And Mike lived in Japan, lived in the Philippines. Told him, he's like, how the hell did you get commissioned in the Navy at 31 years old? So I told him about the program, and he'd already known about it. And so actually Mike ended up going through the same commissioning program. Oh, wow. And then we ended up in the same intel unit, not once but twice, both at O&I and DIA. And Mike's still the OPSO over at DIA up at Fort Dix. So and through that sort of like combination of working on Wall Street, and then I came down here after the financial crisis and started my own investment advisor in a mutual fund. So doing large cap value, so like kind of deep value Warren Buffett style investing. And of course, like the guys in the unit, from everyone from the CO down to our junior listed guys, like, oh sir, you work on Wall Street? Like half the time I'd be walking through the hallway, like people ask me about their portfolios. I had an Intel board once, right? And like kind of went through this Intel board to get this qualification. And you sort of wrapped it up early. And the CEO said, so anyway, I'm at this this government contracting company.
I'm buying Google. What do you think?
Yeah. Stock splitting. What should I do with my 401k? What should I do with this? But it's pretty apparent there was nobody out there serving the military.
And this is at the CO level, he's asking, right?
It's from the CO level to the junior enlisted level, right? It's up and down. I'm sure anybody here would agree with it, right? Nobody says there's too much financial literacy and financial education in the military. Nobody says young sailors, soldiers, Marines, and airmen are too smart with their money, right? That doesn't happen.
Wait a minute, the bail bondsman, the nudie bar, all that stuff that's right outside every base? Yeah.
So
you're not saying that's a good investment?
So we always had this sort of joke, right? But it's not a joke. And Kaj actually being a sort of tactical guy, mapped the distances of it, I think, at Benning. But you come out of Bragg, come out of Benning, any major military installation, there's 3 things just outside the gate, right?
Wait, hold on a sec. Can we take a guess? Can we take a guess at this?
Well,
Tattoo parlor, that's the
What'd you
one.
say?
Pawn shop number
Pawn
2.
shop?
What's third?
Mustangs.
Used car dealership, baby. So that's what I did. So I went to,
Mustangs.
actually, John and I both went to jump school at Benning, Georgia. I'm sure some guys here stationed Fort Benning, right? And so I mapped the distance from Gate 1, the main gate in Columbus there, where the Ville starts, to the first used car dealership, 0.3 miles.
Yeah.
From the
At
main gate.
14%, you can walk away with this Mazda Protege.
Yeah.
So it can look cool. So you've got the used car dealership, you've got some kind of check cashing, pawn shop, payday loans, right? All is like high interest rate stuff, and then you've got the strip club, right? So out of the only one that's kind of honest about trying to take your money is the strip club, right?
Yeah,
The one
fair
out of the
enough.
three, they're probably the most honest about it. And those other 2 are kind of where you really feel the long-term pain, right? Because that doesn't go away after the hangover goes away, right? Like those interest payments keep building up. So, but it's amazing actually talking to people sort of on the personal wealth side and the Wall Street side. You're like, oh well, USA has that whole market covered. And back in 2016 when I was getting ready to get out, like USA was completely exiting the business. So they have no personal wealth. You click on Investments USA, it takes you to Charles Schwab. Yeah. They had mutual funds, they sold it to another company out of Milwaukee, so you'll get some like cross-branding. And then people are like, well, what about Navy Federal Credit Union? It's a credit union. They don't do brokerage services. So it's pretty apparent that there was a need for access to investment products, and the access the way military folks could understand it, and then for education around it, right? Because there's so many sort of military-specific issues. So, I'd seen retail investors kind of getting the shaft. When I left Wall Street, I was always sort of on the institutional side, or on like that, guy in the funny color jacket in the pit of the exchange doing that. And then I worked at one of the big banks during the financial crisis, and then that's when I was able to leave and start my own firm down here. And that's when I really had like the first interaction with like financial advisors who are supposed to be representing their clients. And a lot of times the first question is, oh, you got this great 5-star mutual fund. How do I get paid on it? Right? It's like you're supposed to be just taking care of your clients. So it was pretty apparent, even like 2014, that it's a really an uphill climb for investors. And I think that's why you saw this revolution and all this self-directed investing and the interest in crypto and platforms like Robinhood. But now, like we've seen, like kind of trust break in those as well. So what we've really established, what we're trying to build is the most trusted financial services platform in the world. And to do that based on our military heritage. First, serving the military and veteran community, because there's a huge need there and specific tools and products we can give to them, certain knowledge we can give to them. But then really, it's open to anyone that wants to support the military community, right? So just like, Black Rifle Coffee, people buy Black Rifle coffee doesn't mean they're in the military. They walk into Cabela's and buy a bag, but they know they're supporting that community. So anyone that opens an account with us, not only are they
I
helping
have another
themselves.
example. Maybe, if you buy consulting services from Green Capital.
Exactly.
Yeah, just
Perfect, right?
shameless plug.
Support 'em.
Yeah.
Support 'em. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So that's it. So it kind of, it was, finally sort of the light dawned on Marble Head. Started kicking this idea around in 2018, and like obviously haven't been in the investing business for a long time. I had a better way of organizing the platform, which I always thought was really more in tune to how the military thinks. It's all about teamwork, right? And teamwork is kind of sort of through friendly competition. So everyone is anonymous, but at the end of the day, we rack and stack everyone's portfolio, and you can see over the last day, the week, or month how everyone's performed. And you can tap into those portfolios and see, not in terms of actual dollars, but just percentages, what people are investing in, what they're working with, and what they're making. And then sort of a little more kind of heady, brought it right out of Navy Intel School, DAMNEC back in the day, stuff around collective intelligence. We have a collective intelligence portfolio. So that's like a snapshot of the 30 most popular stocks. In the percentages, people own them. And that is it's been actually really phenomenal. We started that on January 1st, and the market's still down around 11 or 12%, and that's up 2% for the year.
So for the average, military service member or veteran getting out, like they know, you just threw everything into TSP and you hoped for the best, or
which is smart, right? Because you get that free match on the first 5%.
Right.
It's 100% return on your 5%. Absolutely, you got to maximize all that stuff.
or you're playing in the penny stocks or something, or you're kind of like throwing darts at the wall and trying to hope that you're buying Apple at the right time or something, right? But and you can sign up for E-Trade or any one of the other Charles Schwab. You can sign up for one of these apps. What are you guys doing that's a little bit different? That you mentioned drawing on that military heritage. So what are you guys doing?
So JC, I came at it from kind of a different perspective, different background. When I got out of the teams, I started 2 veteran service organizations.
Yep.
First was Mission Continues, and the second was Team Rubicon, which I sat on the board of for a long time. So these are organizations that take your skills from the military and then kind of repurpose them so that you can continue to serve just out of uniform. So I spent a decade, helping veterans find mission and purpose after their active duty service. But what I started to realize towards the end of that decade is that look, it's really important to have a sense of purpose. We all felt that when we left active duty, but it's also really important to have a job. It's really important to have purse, to have money to pay the bills and stuff. And so much of mental health is related to financial health. And so I think about financial health as just a subcomponent of wellness overall, right? You can wake up in the morning and you can meditate for 30 minutes or whatever, but if you still then finish your meditation and have to go look at your credit card bill, right, or you're underwater on your mortgage, your stress level is going to be pretty much up there. So what happened is when I met Sean and as I started to think about this more deeply, I realized that wow, we got to make sure there's nobody in the private wealth community is serving the veteran community or the military community for personal wealth, right? And this is really important. It's really important for all the veteran issues that we care about. So, but what are the 2 biggest barriers to entry in terms of veterans creating personal wealth? Well, first is money, right? They think they don't have enough money to invest in the stock market or to begin investing, right? And we're just taking as a given hypothesis here that over time, right, if you invest in the market, the S&P 500 is one of the safest and most lucrative returns on your money, right? And so if you take that principle, we had to first reduce that one barrier to entry, and Robinhood was a game changer in this with fractional share investing, right? It used to be that, you needed, several $100,000 to buy a full share of Apple stock, right? Now we can start investing with as little as $1. So anybody from the military and veteran community or their supporters can start investing on the platform. And then the second barrier to entry, and where I've really focused my effort, is on the knowledge piece. Even if I had enough money, I wouldn't know what to invest in, right? And so there's a couple ways that we kind of tackle that bear. The first is the transparency piece that Sean talked about. You can actually go in and look at anybody's portfolio and see what they're investing in. Right now, most people get their stock tips from Wall Street Bets or Reddit, right? Everybody's like, oh, I got 300% gains, right? It's the equivalent of telling people you ran a 440 mile or something. Okay, maybe, but let's see it. What you see on our platform is real-time conviction in terms of what people are actually holding and how they're actually performing. So there's this transparency piece, which increases this trust gap that's out there in the market. There's this trust dividend to be captured. But it's also this tacit educational tool, right? It's this soft mentorship nudge. You can see other top performing portfolios on the platform. You can see what Sean, the CEO of the company, is actually like holding in his portfolio, and he's up 17%, right, relative to the S&P. Like, I want to see what Sean's holding, and that can serve as a guide. Same with that collective intelligence portfolio, which is based on this concept of the wisdom of crowds, right? So that's the sort of like how knowledge and education is built into the actual UI of the platform. But then we do exactly what we do in the military, right? Training and education, right? So we have an entire financial literacy curriculum on the platform. And for this, we're actually using some of the same curriculum that there's this office in the Department of Defense, like this little nook somewhere in the Pentagon that nobody's ever found, like it's like buried behind some hot dog machine or something, that actually is like producing all of this really important content, right? But it's like, if you produce financial literacy content in a forest and nobody hears it, like, did you actually produce it? Nobody's using it, right?
Right. I think you even have a joke about it. Like, you've talked about the
Office of Financial Readiness, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
should be the most well-known of all the...
Yeah, nobody's heard of this thing, right?
And the one that told us about it, I mean, I just gotten out, Kaj just got out, Mike was still in. We were talking about the previous SecNav while he was sitting SecNav, and he's like, well, what about the Office of Financial Readiness? One of the offices of who and what? Like,
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and they actually have some great content, all like kind of these little 60-second micro investing videos. They're like they're like E3, E4 level, but anybody can watch them. Like, what is a stock? What is a bond? Right?
Savings versus investing. So what we want to do is incentivize people to take our curriculum. So you watch that first video on the platform, savings versus investing. We'll put $5 in your brokerage account, right? And so the idea is to incentivize people to learn. So we think this combination of a transparent and trusted platform where you can see what other people are actually doing and what they're actually holding and buying, coupled with financial education, is how we're going to help both neophyte and more sophisticated investors get into the market and start sharing in the wealth of this country that we all fought to defend.
So I have an account on Guild, right? I love the leadership board piece, and again, that transparency is really cool, and it plays to our competitive nature, just as vets, right?
Yeah.
You can see what other people are doing, and if I can beat the CEO, right? There's just an ego piece to it, right?
The leaderboard piece, like, candidly, we stole like straight out of a CrossFit like whiteboard, let's just see who's up at the top of the whiteboard.
Oh, do you work out?
What do you call two seals walking down the street next to each other? A race, so that's what the leaderboard is sometimes. I call it like soft competition.
I call it OJT, on the job training. Right? You can really see in real world, left seat, right seat, what's going on, what people are doing, and it's it's on the stock side, it's all commission free, fractional shares. So on a $50 account, like, we can service the young enlisted guys with a $50 account. We don't make any money on it, but that's the advent of sort of the digital revolution. We don't lose any money on it either, right? And that's the beautiful thing about it. So, like, let's get them out there, let's get them investing, and there's nothing like actually seeing real money at work in the market, what other people are doing, for like those lessons really to hit home, right? You can watch all the little 60-second videos you want, but now, like, spend a week, a month, kind of looking at your portfolio, and we stress portfolio, not just buy like 1 or 2 stocks and a crypto coin, and then see how that's worked out for you, right? I mean, that OJT, when it's sort of low consequence, low dollar environment for the young guys, I think is like one of the most impactful educational tools we can give them.
So what are the barriers then right now for you guys to get? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, right? You're appealing to everything that gap that veterans and military service members need. So what's the barrier to you guys getting out there and crushing it as what's the most trusted investment platform on earth?
Look, I think it's just one, it's sometimes, as you know, because we were all there, right, when we first entered the military, sometimes it's hard to get like that E3 to start thinking about their long-term financial future, right? And that's why, in some ways, even the TSP is complex, right? It's a good deal, but we're asking E3s to make complex decisions about their financial future, right? So I always, this is my favorite anecdote. I've been wanting to tell it, so this seems like the right time to do it, and I'm sure we all have like 100x of these stories, but we all got that like one story of example of like this is a really poor use of your money, right? When you're a young new member of the military. So I had this guy in my first platoon who you probably know, so I won't mention it. I won't tell you his actual name, but he was the 60 gunner in our platoon, so he carried the pig, right? Big, strong guy. He was a lumberjack from Northern California, and remember, we all got paid like bi-monthly, right? Every 2 weeks. We get paid on that like Thursday night, and I'd always try on the pay period schedule training on Saturday morning to try and mitigate like how hard people would go like that Thursday and Friday night, right? So I like remember showing up at the platoon hut 2 pay periods in a row, and when you show up at the platoon hut on a Saturday morning, you schedule training on a Saturday morning, you show up at the platoon hut, and you get there early, and guys are like sucking on the Draeger, which is a pure O2 rig, and they've started IVs on themselves, right? It looks like a convalescent ward. So I like walked into the platoon hut on a Saturday morning at 6:30 after one of our bi-monthly pay periods, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, LT, I got to ask you, like, there's this thing, we got paid. I went out the other night, and I met this dancer, and
I need help to put her through med school.
Yeah, like we got married, right? Can you help me take care of this?" So like Monday morning, like we went down to the courthouse, San Diego, like got it annulled or whatever. Like okay, like no harm, no foul. It's all gonna be good. 2 weeks later. Platoon hut, Saturday morning, same guy comes up to me. "Hey, LT, I got to ask you for a favor. You know that thing we did last week? Can we do that again?" He married another stripper, right? And so, like that's the barrier, right? Is convincing people that they can
Stop marrying strippers.
start investing now.
Not that we're prejudicial against strippers. They're part of the gig economy.
Exactly. But yeah, so look, that's one of the challenges, right? Is reaching people with our message that it's important to start investing. Actually in the military, we have a decent amount of disposable income if we use it because we have BAH, we have things that are taken care of, right? So the first barrier is convincing people that it's important to do this. And then the second hurdle to get over is to give people the knowledge of what to actually invest in, right? Because we don't want it to be a casino, right? Robinhood right now, one of our competitors, a large portion of their revenue is coming from crypto and options, right? That's essentially gambling, right? And I'm not saying that you can't do well there, and there's smart strategic ways to invest there, but anybody should have a diversified enough portfolio that that's not where your primary income is. So we consider that knowledge piece really a fundamental piece of the platform.
Awesome. Hey, we got a bunch of vets, so we still have folks that are in the Guard reserves here that are still working TSP, but also most of everybody here is obviously a veteran. So if it's cool with you guys, I'd actually like to open up some questions specific to what the investment strategies out there. Erica, do we have a mic? Awesome. Just to make sure it gets on camera.
Yeah, and one of the things, what happened just when I was getting out, but with the guys that are still in, right, is the switch in the retirement system. It was monumental, right? Going from this, what we call the investment business, a defined benefit plan, right? So do your 20 years, get your full pension, to this now with the blended retirement system, which is like a 401k and investing through the TSP. And like when the switch had to come, like I started to look at it, it was like you had to make decisions about like tax consequences in the future, bond math, stuff that was like super complicated, and I'm not even sure there was a right answer. But now for all the new guys coming in, they're all in this blended retirement system, and they have to invest in the TSP and make those elections in the TSP. So, the education around it, I'm sure was sort of woefully inadequate. It was kind of ad hoc. They pull in any local sort of financial advisor, mom and pop shop to talk about it. But depending on it, still, they had the reasons for doing it. Mostly was around retention, because for the guy 8 years, like the 20-year pension didn't really have any mental value. But if you can build up for another 4 years and get out of 12, you can take that 401k with you. They saw it helping retention. And two, that it was also a budgetary thing, right? For the full defined benefit plan, the government just writes a check and just print the money, right? Now they're making you take your money and actually invest it in the stock market. Yeah. So it's a monumental sea change, and I think the impacts of it, like we're just going to feel, but it's going to be ever present in people's minds about what's the stock market doing, right? Like, because before you had this guaranteed annuity coming to you for the rest of your life. Now that's dependent on actually what the stock market and bond market are doing.
Yeah, putting it back on you, which is I think what we know that we all know.
Just getting where the knowledge piece comes in.
Being reservists,
right?
We know that you're in charge of your own destiny. That's the lesson you learn when you join the Guard and Reserves. Is from active duty, you're like, oh my God, like literally my success in the military is now dependent on me, and I think that's probably, I hope veterans are able to harness that and go, okay, like it's on me now to succeed. Yeah. With that, I'd like to just pass it out to some folks who had some questions.
Oh, sure, thank you. How do y'all route your orders for execution? What platforms do you use, and do you get paid for order flow?
So, I'll answer the last part first. Right now, we don't get paid for order flow. We get big enough, we may start taking that, and it's just one way we can service it. So I've been in the business for a long time, and the payment for order flow model's been around for a long time.
I'm sorry, what is it? What?
Payment for order flow.
PFOF.
So the idea is that if you send your order to buy 100 shares of Apple, you can send it to the NASDAQ, or you can send it to what they call electronic crossing network like ARCA, right? If you send it to ARCA and they execute it there, they would pay you essentially a rebate for routing the orders there. Now, the rules are all that they have to be, the prices can't be any different, it's all going to be the same, but this one venue will pay you mills, like 14 1/1000ths of a penny to send your order there.
Yes.
That's the payment for order flow model. So that's been around for a while, but then when Robinhood came out with their sort of revolutionary idea was like, we can make enough money off this payment for order flow, we don't have to charge commissions. Because it used to be $4.95 a trade, or $6.95 a trade, or $10.95 a trade, right? That's where the disruption Robinhood came out. So there's enough money sort of on the back end through payment for order flow and a couple other things, mostly around interest rate float, right? Just kind of cashing accounts, keeping that interest. So that's what Robinhood did. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth on it. Well, you're getting this rebate. Is the customer, being wronged by it? By regulation, you already have to still obey what's called NBDO, National Best Bid and Offer, and you have to fill out these giant best execution reports. Now, I'm sitting here defending payment for order flow. We don't collect it, right? Someday I think we will, and I think and I know there's been industry studies and independent studies that shown it saves consumers $2 to $3 billion a year. Once you take away the commission payments, right, and essentially the venues are now paying the commission directly to the dealers. It saves consumers $2 to $3 billion a year. So it's,
I think for the military investor, payment for order, for your average military investor, payment for order flow allows you access to the market in ways that you absolutely wouldn't on a commission. Because let's say you're making a $100 trade, right? Let's say you're making a $50 trade, right? It doesn't make any sense at all to pay $6.95 on a $50 trade. And when we're thinking about like young military, young enlisted guys coming into the service who might literally be making $25 and $50 trades, like we still want them to have that access to the market that big investors do. So yeah, Sean and I were out at Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, and Charlie Munger was like ripping into payment for order flow, right? Like that's great, right? If you are trading, or if you're making billion-dollar trades, you don't really care that much about the $6.95 commission, right? But if you're an E4 who's just getting into the market and you want to buy your first $50 to Apple, like this is the way it works.
Yeah, it always gets presented as like hurting consumers, but where it causes friction are for like the big multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, like the Citadels or like Berkshire Hathaway. But it's somehow always going to say, oh, we're just representing the little guy, and that's really not the case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What was the first part of the discussion?
So, yes.
So we have a back end called Alpaca Markets. They're a newer company in the space. So every broker dealer, for the most part, routes orders to what's called a clearing broker. They're like a back end. So like Bank of New York, Pershing, kind of the big ones. And there's some ones that are kind of more advanced in the digital space, have been around for a while. Alpaca Markets is a new one. They actually came out of Stanford Y Combinator, and their technology is great. So they're one of the reasons why we can do fractional shares, and actually you can buy 10 fractional shares at once because of their technology. So we've been very fortunate to have a pretty good partnership with them, and they do kind of all of our back end support for us. So think about the kind of typical sort of Wall Street brokerage businesses. Front office, right, customer facing, putting the orders in. Middle office, kind of making sure everything gets processed right, and then back office, the clearing and all that stuff that happens at the end of the day. From a business standpoint, for us, we're really just front office, and Alpaca handles middle office and back office, which is a great model. So we can really just focus on the customer and the customer experience.
Somebody else had their hand up there. Oh, there. Gazi.
When I go in the app, is there like a box where I can check if I want to use my Roth IRA to invest?
So currently, we don't support IRAs or those kind of contribution plans. So that's the next step for us, right? We're a startup, so we launched in beta on Veterans Day. Came out of beta on January 1st.
Just
past
not
year.
even a year in
Yeah.
business. Okay, right on.
Yeah.
So we are in full startup mode.
Yeah.
So
And then come February, we were really stoked to have launched an investing stock market business when the war in Ukraine started. Timing's everything.
Timing is everything.
it was like inflation was already starting to get hammering things, and then you saw the war in Ukraine. And that's maybe a story we can say for the end about what we decided to do there. But June, July, August, they're all back to double-digit growth for us. So it's been great. And really for us, like, this is it. I mean, we were talking to the Avalon Beach Patrol on Friday down in Avalon, New Jersey. Mike and I were both ocean lifeguards. That's sort of the other secret about the company. All three of us were former ocean lifeguards in high school, as well as being in the
Swim
Navy.
test to get hired. That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Then And then we're up at the SEAL swim, right? We're here today, and like, you know, the SEAL swimmer running around supporting. We're going from the Jersey side to the New York side and lugging stuff around. I'm like, this is so much infinitely better than sitting in some ETF conference at Vanguard, right? Hearing about 7 basis point index funds. Like, I'd much rather be out here with you guys and girls talking about this, talking about what we used to do in the military. I mean, for me, this is almost a dream come true because I've been able to combine my 2 experiences, my Wall Street and investing experience, with my military experience, and actually hopefully make a career out of it. So.
Right. Any other? Oh, sorry, Danny.
Hey, gentlemen, Danny Thiel. First, just want to say thank you for coming out and sharing your wisdom with us. And second, want to congratulate you on your success thus far and what you guys have done. Just curious if there's anything coming up on your roadmap that's exciting that you could share or want to let us know of what's coming up next for you.
Yeah, like
You
what's
go,
going on
then
with
I'll
it?
go.
So you talked about like the app being, this is the beta version, and like any startup, it's an iterative process. So like what's coming down the pike?
Yeah, so we.
And what stocks should we buy?
We got the crowdsourced portfolio. You don't have to ask
There you
me.
go,
You just
all
go
right.
look on the app and see
That's
what
right.
everyone's making money
Oh, the
with.
leaderboard.
You got it.
It's way up. It's up like 2.75% today. Like I was just checking it out. Yeah.
So,
a lot of Rivian up there. Some Tesla. What else? Apple's doing well.
Yeah, and it's actually crazy. This idea of the collective intelligence portfolio, I mean, the way things sort of work, this is an idea I've been kicking around for a while. But I was literally up in New York on the trading desk on a Friday. Some of the sales guys, I was a trader, so the sales guys come represent mostly, like in those days, hedge funds. They wanted to buy call options on this one company. And like on a Friday afternoon, you always get a little worried, like, is this company going to get bought over the weekend? Like something's going on. It's, like a red flags are starting to go off. Like, no, they just got added to this new Goldman Sachs VIP index. Very important position. And so I'm like, all right, on the train ride home, I grab it and I read the prospectus all about this thing. And essentially, it's a collective intelligence portfolio that Goldman Sachs gets from the SEC quarterly filings. Essentially, they take the 50 most popular hedge fund names of the big hedge funds. And then I'm in Dam Neck, Virginia Beach at Intel school, like literally 4 days later. I was out doing a 2-week Intel school, and they start talking about the USS Scorpion, which was a fast attack sub that was lost in 1968, and how it just disappeared in the middle of the Atlantic. 99 sailors on board, nuclear weapons, nuclear reactor, can't find it, right? 2 Soviet subs had gone missing the month before, like, as World War III started, like real hunt for Red October stuff. And eventually, the way they ended up locating the sub was they called him, this guy John Craven, who's a PhD guy, chief scientist at Navy Special Projects, had a lot of sort of deep sea submersible experience. And he started a sort of a collective intelligence methodology by going out and interviewing everyone he could in the submarine community. And then everyone he could that he could even talk about it to. So,
And they'd literally like guess and plot where they thought the submarine was. And
Yeah.
he just plotted all their positions on a giant like
big
hydro
giant chart on
Yeah.
the wall, right? And essentially, like, they had a little bit of information about where it was coming from, but individual charts for first 100, pins in the chart, individual guesses, 100, 300, a couple hundred more.
It's a 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong kind of like mindset, right? Like,
So he goes back and he says, all right, look, we got this, get a chart of the Atlantic Ocean and pins all over.
yeah.
He goes back and had a list of questions he was asking everybody, and goes back and says, okay, what were the most popular or most frequent answers for each question? And plots that if it was true from the Scorpion's last known position, puts a big fat pin on the chart. It's on March of '69. They're about to call off the search and rescue. Radios the boat. Can you head 24 miles over this position before you guys shut down? They find the Scorpion 800 meters from where that big fat pin in the chart, the collective intelligence of the naval community said it would be. So I just saw this stuff on Wall Street, look at a 5-day period, and now saw it like it being taught in Navy Intel school. I'm like, there's something to it.
And
right?
you guys adopted that now for that, like
Yeah,
the leadership, but
that's
the transparency
the Gil
of
portfolio. Yeah.
If these top guys are all performing really well in the market, there's got to be something.
Well,
to
it's
it.
like two sides of the same coin, right? So if you think about like a TripAdvisor or a Yelp, right? Everyone wants to see that star rating at the top, right? I'm going to go, I want to go to lunch in Berlin or lunch in King of Prussia, right? Star rating at the top. That's literally the collective intelligence, but then all those individual reviews, that individual transparency, right? If you're like me, like, wait, there's a 1-star review there. This is a 4-star restaurant, but it's got a 1-star review. They lend credibility to one another, right? If the 1-star review is like, I got a parking ticket out front, right? It's like, if there's a cockroach in the salad, it was yesterday, you might be worried, right? So we really look at it as kind of two sides of the same coin, that individual transparency and then the collective piece. And so that's, we think, really kind of takes that sort of, heritage around teamwork and transparency that we want to put forward, and then the combined actual formal training with it.
Yeah, I know some of these guys have to actually get back to their day jobs in short order, but I think we had one more question.
I'll tell you real quick. My answer to your question is I'm really excited about what we're doing on the foundation side. So we stood up a mission, like we're a mission-driven company, right? Our goal is to raise the wealth profile of the military community, right? But we also stood up a foundation side which focuses on financial education and literacy. We have another sleeve that over another beer another time we'll tell you about that supports some of the stuff we did over in Ukraine because there's so many of guys like us running around and we want to make sure that we were being true to the ethos of our community and living our values. But the stuff that we're doing on the financial literacy side, on the foundation side, is some of the stuff that I think is really interesting, like coming over the horizon.
I know you. I want to carve out just 2 minutes. Tell us, because I've heard the story before, but you guys had a special calling. You know, I mean, you have this startup, and then you take on something else, kind of a cool special mission. If you guys want to talk about it, just briefly.
Yeah, I'll just say, like, you guys are so lucky. When JC was telling me about your company, that you're a 100% veteran company, that's extraordinary. And I knew that I was at the right place when we were down in southern Florida doing some work. We'd actually just come back from the Seal Heritage Museum, and I turned to Sean with our new baby startup, and I said, like, well, I know we're too early to have a vacation policy, but I need to take a little vacation because I want to go over to Ukraine and help. I feel morally compelled to do so. And he sort of looked at me as we were driving his dad's convertible, paused, and he said, "What, you're not going to invite me?" So there I was. That's when you know you're working with the right people. So Sean and I went over there. We did a bunch of stuff we could talk about all day long, but we delivered hundreds of level 4 body armor kits. We ran some UW type programs, and we helped evacuate a ton of people during the early days of the war to get out. And so that was some of the most rewarding work I've ever done, including my time in uniform. And we were all able to do it because we had stood up this foundation piece of the company that supported it. So
You guys did 30 days, right?
yeah, a little longer.
Actually, more. Yeah, I mean,
I think I said 30 days, but it's a little
yeah,
longer.
it took a break.
We have a liberal vacation policy.
You literally came back from Ukraine to go to the Miami Bitcoin conference and then went back. But we always made this commitment, like we're going to be different than other companies. We're going to go and support the military community wherever they are. So like when you first heard all the guys from the 82nd going over to Jezhov, which is like 50 miles from the border, it's like that sort of like kind of piqued my interest. Like maybe we should go over there and see what we can do just to support them. And of course, like pretty quickly it was like, okay, we're going across the line. But as a small company, but with like our ethos, right? We're going to go wherever the military goes to support them, right? We'll go. We look at the military as kind of our high-flying eagles, right? We'll go wherever those eagles dare to go. We'll be there to support them wherever we can. We really think that's what makes us different. And we were kind of joking, like we're driving through Ukraine during a blackout. It's like, I don't see anyone else from USAA over here. Burn, God. Yeah. But for me also, it was like very personally gratifying because I actually got to do some of the coolest stuff the Navy trained me to do, but never sent me to do.
Yeah,
So that was pretty awesome. Yeah, and so JC, I want to give you this, man. This is from our foundation, from us, from the op we ran over there. We'll talk about it over a beer. But,
Yeah, appreciate it, fellas. We'll
yeah.
put this on our Greek Castle flag where we have all the coins. Last thing, I'd be remiss. You guys are on the Apple and the Google playlist, right, or on the app stores, right?
Just type in Guild Financial, or we can send a link.
GUILD, right?
Yeah.
Guild,
like
Guild
the,
Financial.
Yeah, like the sort of trade guild idea, like we're all in this together.
And for at least for the existing period of time, when you sign up, you get money put in just for watching videos, right?
Yeah, and we also sent out a code, right? Did you guys put out an email of the
Yeah, we
code,
did.
right? So if we would log in profile, then go to Pro and put in that code, and then it dropped the money instantly into your account. So
Awesome.
yeah.
All right,
Everybody
cool.
give it a try. Love the feedback. I mean, look, take our money and play with it and see what you think of it. And we'd love to hear back from you. I mean, this is why we built this company, to come here and serve you guys. So really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Cool.